As you hear the bell, take your seat or stand tall if that feels better. Take a nice long breath in and let your breath out in a long, releasing way. Let's take a moment to just remember that even though we're not all together in person, we are connected through this practice, through this video. So you can imagine others, classrooms, families, individuals across our community, and maybe even beyond, taking just a few minutes to slow down for a little bit of self-care. And remember, you deserve it. We are not alone in caring for ourselves. We are part of something bigger. So thank you for showing up always. Thank you for showing up for yourself and for all those around you who will feel the ripple effects of your grounded presence. So last week, we began with a mindful or focused breathing practice where we lengthened our exhale, the breath out, to calm the nervous system and to settle the body. So before we begin our practice for this week, let's spend just a few moments with that practice, reminding ourselves of that. So this is about breathing in for maybe the count of 4. You find your own count. And then breathing out a little longer, maybe for the count of 5 or 6 or 7, whatever feels best for you. And I invite you to do that just another 2 or 3 times. Inviting your body and your nervous system to settle and relax just a little more. Inviting your mind into the present moment as you feel your breath and your body in this practice. And then you can return to your normal breath when you're ready. So now we're going to shift into a movement we do a lot in the schools, and it's called a cross-lateral brain wake-up, is usually what we call it, a brain and body wake-up. And it's a simple practice that can be slightly energizing if that's needed, but it could also be settling. If you're feeling pretty amped up or pretty energized or hyper, it can settle the nervous system just a little. Depends on how quickly you do it. This practice strengthens the connection and the communication between the right and left side of the brain. So you may wonder, why does that matter? Well, this sort of regular movement can help to improve things like focus and problem solving by engaging what's called the prefrontal cortex, which is right here underneath your forehead. And this is the higher executive functioning of the brain. Can also help to support eye tracking and coordination, which has been shown to help with improving skills like reading. It activates the vestibular system. Vestibular system in your inner ear is your foundation for balance. It also plays a big role in learning and in emotional regulation, self-regulation. And this can also be a powerful stress reset. And remember that short, intentional practices like this one, they keep our brains and body balanced, feeling strong, feeling clear. And also remember that when children and others see us doing these things, they learn by example, that stress can be managed in really healthy and short, simple, easy ways. So let's practice together now. I'm going to start seated so that you can see that this can be done in a seated position. So I'm just kind of settling into my seat. In a few moments, I'll stand up and continue from there so you can see how it's done standing. So take a moment, whether you're seated or standing, to feel your feet on the ground. And it's okay to have your shoes on or off. I like to be barefoot, but it's totally up to you. You can do this anytime. You don't need special clothes, right? But you want to take a moment to feel your feet. And then maybe start to lengthen your breath or take some more conscious breaths. And as you do that, you can let your shoulders relax. You can let your jaws soften a little bit, or your eyes. And then we're simply going to lift the right knee and just touch it with the left hand. And then you reach over and touch your other knee with your opposite hand. And you're just going to continue to do this right to left. Okay, so you can see it can be done seated very easily. You're going at your own pace. So if I was standing, it would simply be this. Whoa, see, it's also great for balance and getting a little better at balance. You could get creative and do it in different ways, which we're going to explore here in a moment. But just continue to move for several more rounds, keeping the movement smooth and coordinated. And you can even imagine that you're waking up and strengthening, almost like weightlifting for both sides of your brain. You're also bringing coordination into your body. So just get this sense of things moving smoothly and in an organized way together. Now, kids like to go really fast with this, so we always invite them to play with that. Like, you can go much faster if you want, right? They love that. They even start almost running. And then we invite them to slow it down, so you can just play with the pace, right? And then after a little bit, doesn't have to be long, just take a moment to stand and notice how your body feels. We aren't necessarily looking for huge shifts. Sometimes you might feel that, but even the smallest little shift or change, that signifies that there's something that's different, that maybe you feel just slightly more focused, slightly more organized in your body, more connected through body and brain, more of a sense of just awareness of yourself, more awareness of your legs and your feet on the ground. You're welcome to do another round just like we did, but there are lots of variations like I mentioned. So one is to tap your opposite foot behind you. And sometimes it's helpful to look toward that foot that you're tapping so that you can make sure you're finding where you want to put your hand. We find that with kids a lot, that they have to look to see where their hand needs to go. You can see if this feels easier, harder, about the same. You could always add a little hop if you want to make it harder. That one can be really fun for some, and for others, it's pretty challenging, right? So take a moment and just pause and feel that, and then think about other ways you could do things. So I like to get really playful. So what if you take your pointing finger of your left hand and touch your right ear, however you want to touch it, okay? What if you take the elbow of your right arm and touch your left knee? Or even in that direction, even if you can't touch it. What if you take the pinky of your left hand and touch your right shoulder? Or you could take the thumb of your right hand and touch your left knee, or even down to your left toe, okay? So there are lots of different ways you can play with this and make kind of a game out of it. Another one that I'd like to show you that my husband Andy taught me is crossing, either at the shoulders or arms, or even down at the legs if you were sitting, and then uncrossing. Crossing and uncrossing. And you can, each time you do it, switch which arm is on top. And Andy's mom taught him this when he was in elementary school and was having test anxiety. So she told him to do this before a test, which I think is pretty cool. He learned this a long time ago. Anytime we're crossing the midline, we are creating a connection and more stronger communication from right to left, which if done regularly throughout the day, it can really help build those pathways, those neural pathways from right to left in our brain, giving us the more whole brain experience. So take a moment after doing some of those things and see how it feels. Maybe it got you a little energized or more amped up. Maybe it got your heartbeat up a little if you were standing. Maybe you feel more focused. Maybe you feel more relaxed or settled. I definitely feel more awake in my body. So I invite you this week to try this movement or something similar 1 or 2 minutes a day and just see what you notice. You can try it anytime. When you first get up in the morning, before you go to work, before you go into a meeting or after you're in a meeting, when you get home from work and it's just before dinner and you need a little brain break or reset. Notice how it shifts your sense of focus, your awareness of your body, being present. And even if you don't notice a big shift, like I said, just know that you are impacting your brain and your nervous system on a deep level. So as we end, let's just take a moment to remember that these practices, again, aren't just for us, that others around us are going to benefit. Our kids, the youth we work with, co-workers, families. And these are small, simple, but powerful ways that we can manage stress. And so instead of modeling go, 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 go and burnout, we actually are modeling more presence. Instead of panic, we're modeling a sense of self-care and slowing down. And remember that regulated nervous system in an adult, even in a child, but especially in an adult, is going to help be a regulating force and teach regulation to those who are around, especially kids. So let's end with taking another breath in and a long breath out. Pat yourself on the back again for practicing. And I hope you'll join us next week for our next practice. We love being with you. We love practicing with you. And we hope you have a great day. Take care and peace.